To sell or not to sell? That is the question. What's up, guys? Welcome to here we are to do a nice little breakdown / discussion whether or not Megumi Fushiguro sold, gave up, fumbled the bag, whatever which way you wish to say it, whether or not a Mr. Megumi Fushiguro ended up doing the damage, doing that darn thing, and ended up, wasting the sacrifices of numerous characters who risked their lives and may be continuously risking their lives in order to save his, and ultimately, hopefully, save us all from the monster and the beast and the demon that is Ryomen Sukuna. We're here to determine whether or not he did sell, and whether or not the community's reaction to him has been appropriate, and whether or not this selling, if it is selling, is bad writing, or if it fits within the motifs and the struggle and the pain and agony that Megumi Fushiguro has gone through. So, let's not waste any more time, and let us hop right into it. Editing me, I summon you. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me, and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, I have to ask you, what is selling? In this context in particular, what is the selling that Megumi Fushiguro is supposedly guilty for in this very specific scenario? Well, let's review the scenario itself. Yuji Itadori, after numerous slobber knocks against the King of Curses, Ryomen Sukuna, has finally done it. Gotten Sukuna in such a position where, after a Jacob's Ladder strike, the loss of 2 of his lower arms, and everything else, according to numerous calculations being undertaken by numerous characters, such as Yuki Tsukumo's own information, to Yuji Itadori's own information, to an understanding by multiple people who are under the influence of infusion and transformation, the perfect, and I mean the perfect, opportunity to end this was born. Yuji Itadori, after the sacrifice of numerous characters, managed to land the hit on Sukuna, managed to land a cursed energy-infused punch, built with the ability to shatter the divide that exists between 2 souls, and allow Megumi Fushiguro to take his hand, to come to the future, escape from the depths of darkness that he was placed in by Ryomen Sukuna, and ultimately make the lives that were lost worth it, as all of them went for him. And now it's his chance to pay that back by coming to the forefront. So, what happens? What transpires? What changes in this decisive battle in the uninhabited demon-infested Shinjuku, Part 23? Well, it's simple. To quote the narrator, Itadori and Akotsu's calculations weren't wrong regarding the structure of the soul, but enough already. That's enough. When it came to the will to live, Megumi Fushiguro's soul had already given up. So, essentially, Megumi Fushiguro, right here, right now, could, presuming, based on what the narrator says here, this is, admittedly, it's very vague, notably, this is the officials, and it's not even, fully stated, what was supposed to happen, but Itadori and Akotsu's calculations weren't wrong regarding the structure of the soul, but when it came to the will to live, Megumi Fushiguro's soul had presumably already run out. It had given up. It was done. Meaning that, of course, in this instant, Megumi Fushiguro, based on what Yuta and Yuji believe, based on the evidence in Tsukumo-san's notes, the sacrifice of everybody else, and all that existed, Megumi Fushiguro could have grabbed Yuji's hand, been dragged from the depths, and raised to the heavens. Easily. Absolutely. We don't know exactly how it would have worked. Generally, we just don't have a clue on how it would have functioned properly. Would Sukuna, would he, fall out of Sukuna, and then the fingers and mummy, would he bleh? I'm not exactly sure how the restoration of Megumi Fushiguro's soul would have worked. Well, at least the soul being the basis for the body, maybe the information would have transferred, and then maybe Sukuna would have been taking the place of Megumi inside of Megumi until Megumi was properly ejected or rejected Sukuna's soul completely. The logistics are unknown, and thanks to the nature of Megumi's choice, they will stay unknown, presumably for the foreseeable future. But that's just it. Megumi Fushiguro did in fact have the chance to return towards the end of 251. This is verbatim stated. But he didn't. And right now, Yuta Okkotsu, Rika Orimoto, the Queen of Curses, and Yuji Todori, the former vessel of the king, have all been slashed to ribbons because of his decision. And of course, Ryomen Sukuna still stands tall, still stands proud. Of course, after the control of his body and the ability to manipulate it and his own cursed energy has drastically fallen, ultimately he's still in control. And this control allowed him to chant, "Dragon scales, repulsion, paired falling stars," and slice Yuta Okkotsu, the strongest sorcerer of the modern day after the fall of Satoru Gojo, in half. And presumably remove him from the narrative. There are many levels of copium that need to be discussed for Yuta, though admittedly, the more and more I see it, the less and less cope I see, because the scans keep getting clearer and clearer. So it's presumable that he did end up in half, just like his sensei, meaning that a big win condition is gone. All at the choice of Megumi Fushiguro. But, of course, it isn't just the loss of Yuta Okkotsu that would now fall on Megumi Fushiguro's head. And depending on whether or not you believe Rika will despawn with Yuta Okkotsu is another thing, but the hypothetical loss of Rika, who knows? Of course, most likely Yuji Todori is still alive. I don't think Gege Akutami has the nerve to off Yuji Todori in this way and just let Sukuna win this easily, but the possible future end of Maki Zenin, if she falls against Ryomen Sukuna, is now on Megumi Fushiguro's head. The loss and sacrifice of Higuruma Hiromi, it would now fall on Megumi Fushiguro's head. His sacrifice and an attempt to save him, thrown away. Absolutely disregarded. Heck, the sacrifice of one man, Satoru Gojo. Oh, his sacrifice is thrown away. The man who was sliced in half, who very specifically wanted to save the boy that wasn't even his. His sacrifice is now meaningless. At least for the moment. As Megumi Fushiguro rejected the sacrifice of Satoru Gojo. I would include Kashimo Hajime. But, if that man had a domain expansion, Sukuna would have been cooked. So, well, maybe not cooked. Sukuna would have figured a way out. He would have incarnated anyway. But, presumably, Kashimo was not trying to save Megumi. He even encouraged Gojo to not save Megumi. And very likely, if Kashimo had managed to defeat Sukuna, he would be milli-rocking over his body, which would also be Megumi's body. So I won't include Kashimo in this. But the specific sacrifice of Satoru Gojo, thrown away. The specific sacrifice of Higuruma. That's why did I say his name like that? Higuruma Hiromi, specifically thrown away. And the sacrifice of Yuta Okkotsu, oh so specifically thrown away. Realize, it is very clearly shown in this chapter that if Yuta wanted to, he could have executed Sukuna right here. Right here. Realize, the only reason Sukuna is legally allowed, and I say this very specifically, as legally allowed to use World Slash and take Yuta Okkotsu out of the picture by bisecting him, is because Yuta Okkotsu very specifically turned off Jacob's Ladder. He did. And realize, considering the scale of Jacob's Ladder, this maximum output Jacob's Ladder, Sukuna would not have been able to activate a technique. He wouldn't have. If Yuta Okkotsu hadn't stopped. The main reason Yuta Okkotsu stopped was for this plan. To save Megumi, and Megumi Fushiguro rejected this. He threw it all away. You want to talk about it, he's just like his father, the one who left it all behind. But of course, that naturally leads to the question. Did Megumi Fushiguro say? Absolutely. There's no way to put it. He had the chance. He was given the means and metric. He's sentient. At least sentient, presumably. We'll get into the discussion in a little bit. But he's presumably sentient. There is a man in there. There's a man in the woods. Not the woods. There's a man in the body. In the soul. He could have taken it back. The narrator itself declares that Yuta and Yuji were not wrong. The only person who made a mistake in this entire encounter, at least in this very specific point, there were other mistakes made earlier, but in this very specific encounter, in this moment, is Megumi Fushiguro. He made the mistake of not rising up, taking the hand of Yuji Todori, and reaching from that darkness to fight back, fight for his freedom, and take control of the man who was slaughtering, and is responsible for the slaughtering of everyone he knows and loves. Of course, Megumi sold. But now the question is, does that make sense? Or is it a contrived way for Gege to drag the plot out? Because let me be real. If I'm looking at this from a meta-narrative perspective, if I'm Gege Akutami, and I'm thinking, do I want to end the manga right now? No. What will I do? Have Megumi say no. That's the meta-narrative reason. Like, if I'm just taking it strictly from outside the narrative, I would not want Sukuna to lose like this. To the second strongest source of the modern day using somebody else's technique. Why do I want Sukuna to lose like that? No way on this good green earth. Easiest way to make sure this doesn't happen? Easy. Make Megumi say no? Oh no, Megumi said no. Let's cut the second strongest sorcerer in half on Valentine's Day. Boom! Delicious, scrumptious, spicy even. However, once again, everything has meta-narrative reasons. Everything, every choice, every means and metric. Heck, the choice at the end of this chapter, Maki piercing Sukuna through the chest and not simply removing his head, all of it is meta-narrative decisions to keep the plot going longer. But there comes a question. There's always a question. Does the meta-narrative decision match the actual narrative decision? And does the narrative decision actually match the character narrative in that decision? That's how I judge if a decision is good. If it makes sense, if it's logical, or if it feels contrived. That's the difference. Because, I'll be real with you, everything in a story happens very specifically because the writer wants it to happen that way. As a writer myself, for what-ifs, for original stories, for rewrites of specific characters, for anything like that, trust me, everything's contrived. And if you ever written anything in your life, you know it's contrived. Why does character A do this? Because you want them to. But, of course, the onus is on you, the creator, to make sure that it makes sense within the narrative. So let's establish and try to argue whether or not the choice of Megumi Fushiguro saying no, even though the door was right there, the door to opportunity was beautiful, it was pasted in the glorious face of Yuji Itadori with his two little mini skeleton arms, does it make sense within the character of Megumi Fushiguro? Does his selling make sense, and is it validated by all that has happened to him? And the answer is simple, but complex. So let's go through it. Remember, Megumi Fushiguro is at this point, I believe, is he 16 yet? I actually genuinely don't know if he's even 16 yet. But allow me to remind you that Megumi Fushiguro is but a baby. A baby's baby. For reference, on average, the brain is not meant to fully develop until, I believe, age 25 or 26. He's now currently 16. And I believe he turned 16 while he was possessed by the embodiment of evil. So, he's currently not doing too well. So, number one, big thing, he was possessed. But remember exactly why he got possessed. Why his soul was so fragile to the point where Ryomen Sukuna could get all up in his guts. Quite literally and figuratively. No, it's just literally. It is literally just literally, because he literally ripped off Itadori's finger and shoved it in Megumi. I can't believe that's actually literal. But he did literally get in Megumi Fushiguro's guts. It's because of a certain someone. A certain sister. Now, don't get me wrong. I do agree with the common consensus that Samuki is something of a plot device. Barely even a character. Even in external materials, Gege has refused to elaborate on Samuki that much. She's appeared in some external materials, in some volume extras. Notably, I haven't read the light novels myself, so I'm not sure how much she appears there, but she's a minor of a minor of a minor character. Do not get me wrong. And you can definitely make arguments that Gojo Satoru is more the deuteragonist of Jujutsu Kaisen than Megumi Fushiguro is, even though I would say Megumi Fushiguro is the deuteragonist of Jujutsu Kaisen. But, with that being the case, Megumi Fushiguro is a side character. I'm kidding. He is just the side character. A deuteragonist is not the main character, that is Yuji Itadori. And look at how Yuji Itadori gets treated by the narrative. So, while I agree, Samuki means basically nothing to us. She just doesn't. Like, she at least in my opinion, she's not a character. Fanon has done a fantastic job expanding on her and taking what, like, I'm hard pressed to even call it crumbs. I'll be completely honest, I'm hard pressed to completely call it crumbs. But let's say the crumbs of material that Gege has given us on Samuki has been expanded massively by the fandom. But in narrative, there's no reason for people to care about Samuki. But remember, let's put the narrative and how we feel about it aside, Samuki's the only thing that Megumi has. Especially at the point when he got possessed. Remember, Gojo Satoru was sealed in a box. He used Yuji Tadori for less than 6 months. Realistically, less than 6 months. Because remember, Yuji Tadori was gone for a majority of that. The Fanon, Megumi, and Itadori friendship is not canon. Those two interacted very, very limitedly over their very short time before Shibuya, and everything falling apart after that leading into the Culling Games and so on and so forth. The main person who Megumi Fushiguro spent his entire life with, the only remnant of an easier and simpler time when both of his parents were still alive, is Samuki. She was his everything. Remember, the whole reason that Megumi Fushiguro even joined the Culling Games was because of Samuki, to save Samuki, to stop her from being under the influence of Big Jaku. That is the whole reason why Megumi did anything. So, naturally, there's only one thing that would transpire. When the one thing that Megumi Fushiguro actually cared about, and at least is confirmed to cared about, fell. And didn't just fall by any means in metric. Very specifically, as a plan by the nonchalant King of Curses, Samuki was felled by Big Raga, the Upstopper. Felled by the 10 Shadows. Not by Shrine, not by Fuga, not by Sukuna's bare hand. No, it was the 10 Shadows. In Megumi Fushiguro's mind, he tore the life from his sister's body with his own 2 hands. Even in the depths of the soul, as he watches on, you see tears stream down his face as he realizes that ultimately he's lost everything. And here's the thing, right? If this were just it, I'd say that's darn near enough, considering how much we know Megumi cared about Samuki, how much he was willing to sacrifice himself, change himself. Remember, all of Megumi's development into a near copy of Toji in the Culling Games very specifically comes from the sacrifices he's willing to make for Samuki. Remember that. It isn't just only this. The other thing that Megumi Fushiguro did, admittedly not with his own bare hands, but was full witness to, was fully abided by, and fully had to witness and experience as his own technique was used to slice down who? The one man who was willing to risk it all. Gojo Satoru fell to Megumi Fushiguro. Naturally, in a way, in a twisted way, shape, and or form. In Megumi's eyes, he's the reason his sensei, the man who took him in, the man who took his sister in, the man who changed his life, fell. He had to watch as his own flesh and blood and his very technique was used to not just strike down his beloved sister, but also the man who raised him. The only other person that Megumi Fushiguro, out of our entire main relevant cast, that he's known for his entire life. He had to watch Gojo fall. And remember, that was fully witnessed by him. Unfortunately, 251 confirms that Megumi very well may have been conscious the entire time. The unlimited voids that had hit him, while they were used as a viable target for Maharaga's adaptation, and while it does seem to be implied here that his eyes have expanded, his pupils have dilated, he's been destroyed by the unlimited voids, 251 has implied that he was conscious. He watched as Sukuna played Satoru Gojo like a fiddle and sliced him in half. What's left for Megumi? I ask you, what is left for him? Yuji Tadori? A guy he barely knows? Nobara's gone. Another person he barely knows. Maki Zenin? Who is that to him? They seem to have very little connection. Yuta Kotsu? Rika Orimoto? Higuruma Hiromi, a man he never met. Who is left? What is left for Megumi Fushiguro in this world? He lost the big thing that he was fighting for in the first place in his beloved sister, and he sliced down his own What's left? He's had enough, y'all. He's had enough. It's enough already. There's no more need. And top this off with the fact that the boy was soaked in a concentration of pure evil, meant to sink his soul even further into the depths after being devoured and destroyed by the King of Curses. I think it's more than enough. narrative justification. I think it makes more than enough sense from the character and what's established about the character that he would shatter. Of course, if we were doing a guilt trip comparison, or a guilt comparison between Yuji Itadori and Megumi Fushiguro, legally speaking, if we're just counting numbers, Megumi, through Sukuna, has only slaughtered 2 people. Well, not 2 people now, at this point, 3, 4. Because Kashimo, Higuruma, Gojo, and Yorozu. But only 4, while Yuji slaughtered hundreds of thousands in Shibuya. So yeah, is it impressive that Yuji Itadori got back up and has moved on and has kept fighting? Isn't that fantastic for his character? Absolutely. But remember, Yuji Itadori did not get up on his own. Yuji Itadori was not sunk in despair, sunk into a bath. Yuji Itadori didn't lose anybody so close to him that it was all he had left in the world. Yuji Itadori still had friends that he wanted to fight for, still had a goal he wanted to fight for, still had things he could believe in, a future he could strive for. Yuji Itadori had Megumi Fushiguro, someone he hoped that he could help, and many other people he wanted to help. Megumi Fushiguro, ultimately, at his very core, has lost everything. And when you've lost everything, and you see nothing but people trying and trying and trying and falling and falling and falling, all to do something you can barely comprehend, because it's a world that you wouldn't even want to return to, of course, that would be enough. All that pain would be enough. So, in my opinion, 2 things can be true at once. Megumi Fushiguro can sell, can fumble, can waste the sacrifices of numerous people, foil a perfect plan by the means and metrics of what is established within the universe itself. Absolutely he did, and there's no refuting that. If he had done this right here, everything would be over. Heck, merger wouldn't even happen. Sukuna would be done. They would all go jump Urume. Yuta, now, as much faith as I have in Urume, especially with the official chapter, at least through Sukuna, based on his assumption here, seemingly enough confirming that Yuta Okkotsu did just flat out eat the final finger, that is it. Megumi Fushiguro would have control over the merger and would not activate it. Urume is not beating Yuta, Yuji, and Maki alongside Hikari. I'm sorry, I love Urume, not seeing the vision on that one. They're getting ganked to oblivion. Plot ends. Absolutely. And Megumi got rid of that plot endpoint. But at the same time, I think Geige's done enough of a job establishing all of Megumi Fushiguro's struggles, all of his pain, all of his agony, and taking advantage of the fact that Megumi Fushiguro is still a very, very young man. And a young man that has gone through more than most any could ever claim in a world that is so, so heartless. So Megumi Fushiguro did sell, but it makes sense. And honestly, I'm more than happy that it didn't work. Because realize if it did, we would not get to see the King of Curses evermore. And I appreciate that. However, that's what I think. Please let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Number 1, did you think that Megumi Fushiguro sold the bag? And number 2, do you think if he did sell the bag, did it make sense within the context of the character? Or even if you think he didn't sell the bag, do you think the choice he made fits within the context of the character and everything that Geige has established? Please let me know all that and more in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave Shadowfall in the comment section down below. It can be 1 word, it can be 2 words. Have fun. I'll be getting devious with it. But I want to thank you so much for watching. Once again, please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include live reactions to the very next chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen, along with ad-free variations of all my videos. And if you become a $25 patron or a $25 member, you can order any video you want. Now, I do thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dagger the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Wakanda Plays, Red Wolf, 4765, Greyhound, and Atkins Void. And I'd like to give another thank you to our $5 patrons, Victor, Sean, RNG Master, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin, Igneal, and Demix LNT. And I'd like to give another thank you to our $7 members, Autumn Mornings Lazo, Sick Addiction, and Jan Tomas. I'd like to give another thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha and Joaquin. I'd like to give another thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. I'd like to give a hefty thank you to our $25 patron, Winter. I'd like to give another gargantuan thank you to our $25 patron, Steron. I'd like to give another humongous thank you to our $25 patron, EHAC1. I'd like to give another scrumdiddlyumptious thank you to our $25 patron, ChinaDoll09. I'd like to give a final and gargantuan thank you to our final $25 member, Calvin Elder.